Iran, tickets and visas. Nothing to do with football, a lot to do with the current situation, with our host countries, with the world the way it is.
Iran is officially filing a complaint against the United States with FIFA, and the list of grievances they're bringing has gotten significantly longer since the tournament started. Revoked tickets, banned officials, a referee turned away at the airport, and a team forced to commute across an international border just to play their own home World Cup matches. Let's start with the newest issue because it's the one that finally pushed Iran's federation to take formal action. Just days before the tournament began, the Football Federation of Iran says its allocation of match tickets was completely pulled. The federation said it had already started selling those tickets to fans, who had booked flights and accommodations based on that promise, before the allocation was abruptly revoked. In a statement, the federation called it an action contrary to the spirit governing international competitions and the principle of equality among participating countries. That's the official language for, we think we're being targeted, and our own fans are paying the price for it. That ticket issue is now part of a formal grievance Iran is lodging directly with FIFA, on top of everything else the team has already been dealing with throughout this tournament. Here's where things stood heading into the World Cup. Iran is the only team at this entire tournament that arrived from a country effectively at war with one of the three host nations. Despite President Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian signing an initial peace deal aimed at ending that war, the fallout from months of conflict followed Iran's team straight into the tournament. Several members of Iran's delegation were denied visas to even travel to the US, including Mehdi Taj, the president of the Iran Football Federation. Iran's head coach, Amir Galanoui, didn't mince words about how that's felt for his players, saying they are the most oppressed team at the tournament. The visa situation alone has been a mess from the start. 15 members of Iran's soccer federation were denied entry into the United States. The State Department's justification was blunt. Officials said they would not allow the Iranian team to abuse this system to sneak terrorists into the United States under false pretenses. No further details about those specific allegations were ever released. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had earlier told Congress the administration had no problem issuing visas to Iran's players, but made clear they'd be watching closely for anyone with alleged ties to Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Because of all this, Iran had to abandon its original plan to train in Tucson, Arizona, and instead set up its entire World Cup base across the border in Tijuana, Mexico. Picture that for a second. A team playing all three of its group stage matches inside the United States, but unable to actually live, train, or sleep there. Every single match day became a border crossing, and the conditions of that border crossing turned into their own controversy. Iran's ambassador to Mexico said the team had been told it must enter and leave US soil on the same day as each match. The Iran Federation initially disputed that, saying they'd been allowed to arrive the day before and leave the day after. But head coach Galanoui later confirmed there had been a last-minute change and the team was forced to leave the country immediately after their opening match, a 2-2 draw against New Zealand at what's being called Los Angeles Stadium for the tournament, formerly known as SoFi Stadium. White House World Cup Task Force Director Andrew Giuliani pushed back on the idea that this was unfair, telling ESPN that Iran's team was allowed to fly in the day before the match for what is, in his words, a 27-minute flight from Tijuana to Los Angeles. From the US government's perspective, this isn't oppressive. It's a short hop across the border. From Iran's perspective, it's a daily reminder that they're not actually welcome in the country hosting their own tournament. On top of the team-wide visa chaos, individual players have been caught in the crossfire too. Forward Mehdi Tarabi discovered after Iran's opening match that his visa had actually expired because he'd been issued only a single entry visa, while the rest of his teammates received multiple entry visas that let them cross back and forth freely. He sat out that match as an unused substitute. The State Department says the issue has since been resolved, and Tarabi received a new multiple entry visa, clearing him to play the rest of the tournament. But the fact that it happened at all, to a professional athlete in the middle of a World Cup, says a lot about how chaotic this entire visa process has been for Iran specifically. Forward Mehdi Taremi, who played in last season's Champions League final with Inter Milan, summed up the atmosphere bluntly. He's been to 3 World Cups before, he said, and normally there's a unique sense of friendliness the moment you land in the host country. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling it right now, Taremi said. There's a lot of tension right now in this World Cup. You feel it in the atmosphere, and unfortunately, it's because of actions like visa denials. Then there's the situation with the referees, which Iran's federation says is a completely separate but equally telling example of the same pattern. Somali referee Omar Artan, one of the most respected officials in Africa, was turned away at Miami International Airport after flying in from Istanbul. U.S. Customs and Border Protection said he was found inadmissible due to vetting concerns and denied entry, without elaborating further. Somalia is on the United States' list of restricted countries for immigration, though exceptions are normally made for cases like this. Artan never got the chance to officiate a single match. FIFA President Gianni Infantino, when pressed on why FIFA didn't successfully intervene on Artan's behalf, told critics to chill and relax. Artan has since returned home to Somalia, where he reportedly received a hero's welcome, and FIFA has confirmed he'll still be paid for the matches he was originally assigned to officiate. And then there's the detail that's drawn attention from fans far beyond football circles. When Iran's players arrived in Tijuana to begin their World Cup preparations, they stepped off the plane wearing matching gold lapel pins. Each one was stamped with a single number, 168. That number refers to the people, mostly young girls, killed in a missile strike on an elementary school in Minab, southern Iran, on February 28th, an attack widely attributed to the United States, and that marked the very start of this war. It wasn't the team's first time making that gesture either. They'd worn similar pins ahead of a warm-up match in Turkey months earlier. Iran's embassy in Hungary publicly acknowledged the pins afterward, specifically referencing Minab by name. It was a quiet, wordless statement walking straight into the most watched sporting stage on Earth. All of this has unfolded against a backdrop of protests as well. Outside Iran's matches in Los Angeles, members of the local Iranian-American community, home to the largest Iranian population anywhere outside Iran itself, have organized demonstrations against the Iranian government, focused on human rights abuses and political prisoners. Some protesters have even called on FIFA to ban Iran entirely from the tournament, drawing comparisons to FIFA's decades-long ban on South Africa during apartheid. Iran's players, for their part, have avoided directly addressing the question of political oppression back home in their official press conferences, letting gestures like the lapel pins speak instead. The White House, meanwhile, has firmly rejected the idea that any of this amounts to targeted treatment. Responding to Iran's complaints about ticket access specifically, a White House official told reporters that any limits on Iranian fans stem from existing law rather than any new or targeted policy aimed at the team. So where does this leave things? Iran sits in Group G after a dramatic 2-2 draw with New Zealand in their opening match, and they're set to face Belgium next, also in Los Angeles. On the field, Team Melli is competing like any other squad chasing a result. Off the field, they're operating out of a hotel across an international border, missing their federation president and senior officials, down a chunk of their original ticket allocation for their own fans, and now formally taking their grievances directly to FIFA. Whether that complaint leads to any real change or simply becomes one more unresolved flashpoint in a tournament already overflowing with them is the question everyone connected to this story is now watching closely. We'll keep following this as it develops. If you want the next update the moment FIFA responds, make sure you're subscribed.